thank you very much for being here. We know it's been a hard year for all of you, but we are very happy to have this event with Susan today. I'm not going to tell you anything about Susan because you can read it from the screen, but I will tell you how happy and thankful I feel today to have her here in this event. And I think, hello, Susan, I think we are all going to enjoy it. And well, if you haven't seen Susan, she has combined this strategy of drama and teaching through drama. And that is a real shift in your way, in the way you teach. And I'm sure you will appreciate this workshop, this event. And thank you all for being here. At 10:15, we're going to have a break. And during that break, we are going to listen to Alejandra Tolina. Yes. And she will give us a great presentation. And at the end of the event, we're going to have the raffle time. So welcome. Thank you very much for being there. And well, Susan, your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much indeed. Hello, everybody. I'm so happy to be here in Patagonia. This has been quite a week. I've been to Greece, I've been to Spain, I've been to China, I've been all over Argentina, and now I'm in Patagonia. How I wish I was there in person. That would be really fantastic. I've called my presentation this morning, Improvisation for Transformation. And I'd like to thank Macmillan for inviting me. I love working with Macmillan. I've worked with you many, many times, and I always enjoy it. I have been a drama teacher for 48 years now, and I have seen students transformed. Not only have I seen students transformed, but I have seen teachers transformed as well. And as Mariana said, you have to change your way of teaching. You have to change your mindset. So I get you into a growth mindset where you really see that the goals you set for yourself, improving your teaching skills, really change you as a person. They make you much more positive. They make you much more eager to carry on learning and to become a lifelong learner. And as you know, I've been teaching for a long time in many different countries, but I am still learning. I'm still investigating, I'm still researching, I'm still reading, and we have a wealth of information here on the computer, literally at our fingertips. And I want to say that I'm very, very proud to be part of the teaching profession. When I've looked around me this year, and I've spoken to many, many teachers this year, I have seen how teachers are flexible, adaptable, and the only thing they care about is their students. So it's wonderful to be part of this profession. I'm very, very proud of you. I'm going to move on now, but before I do, I'd like you to just look at those images around the title. And I'd like you to think of some adjectives to actually describe those images. What do those images make you feel? What do you see in those images? How are the people feeling in those images? If you could just write some adjectives in the chat box, and I will read them. They are vibrant, exactly, Audrey, fantastic. Anybody else got anything? They are free, yes. This is what drama does for you. It makes you creative, it makes you free, and it makes you feel as though you are alive. And that's how it transforms classrooms, and it transforms teachers. Yes, they are being artistic, and this is what we need to bring into our English teaching, the arts, as Sir Ken Robinson so rightly said. We need to bring in the arts, and we need to have our students finding their element, finding out what they can richly do. I'm going to play a little song now. This comes from the era of the hippies, of which I was one. It comes from the peace and love movement. We didn't have any violence. We didn't have any fake news. We didn't have anybody telling us lies. We were just all in the search for peace and for love. And I want you to listen to the words, and I want you to think about what the words mean for you. So I'm just going to play the video. Just one moment.
This moment is different from any before it. This moment is different, it's now. And if I don't kiss you, that kiss is untasted. I'll never, no, never get it back. But why should I want to? I'll be in the next moment, sweet lover, sweet now.
The walls of this room, they're different from any before them.
They are now.
The air that you breathe is different from any before it.
It is now. It is now. Repeating. Oh no. 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 Oh.
On mute.
Okay, that's all I'm going to play you today. And I hope that you got some meaning from it. Could anybody tell us in the chat box what kind of meaning they got from that song? I hope you heard the song. Joyful, the moment is now. Exactly. Peace. Live the moment, live the moment. This is all about what we now call mindfulness. And I have felt that during my years as a teacher, I have always managed to keep the students in this moment, working together as a team, feeling that they were part of what we are doing now, here and now. And I've been able to teach them to concentrate, to focus, to be with the group and not be distracted by other things. And I think that's part of the joy of drama. So I'm going to move on and I'm going to explain to you what questions we're going to try to answer today. What is improvisation? Why use it in language teaching? And then how do we teach it, in fact? Is it easy to teach? Is it difficult? Is it natural for the students? I always maintain that drama is actually an extension of childhood play. That's what we're doing in drama. We are extending childhood throughout life and we are maintaining the task of being curious, the task of being in life and learning about life, learning about the human condition, developing yourself as a human being. So I would like you to drum on your desk. If we all had our mics on and we could hear the sound, it would be great. Drum on your desk if you would like to make yourself and your people feel joy every day. Some people have asked me why I like life so much, and I have never really known why, but I think it's because I feel joyful every day and I feel appreciative of what I've got. So let's move on. Some people call improvisation the art of possibility. So that's one definition. And I'd like to ask you how you felt when you were young, when you went out and knocked on your friend's door. Well, I don't know if any of you have done that these days. In my day, we did that because we all lived in the same street, and we just went out of our houses and we knocked on the door and we said, "You want to come out to play?" And what did they answer? They always answered, yes. What would happen these days if, as adults, you went and knocked on your friend's door, or you called them up on WhatsApp and you said, "Want to come out to play?" What would that answer be? They would say, "I guess." What are we going to do? You never asked that when you were young. You knew what play was, and you knew that you wanted to do it, in fact. Improvisation can be anything you want it to be. There are no set styles or formats for improvising. It's highly experimental, and it changes from moment to moment. This moment is different from any before it. This moment is different, it's now. And this is what happens in improvisation. It's perfect being in the here and now. It's a spontaneous response to an unfolding situation which happens at almost life rate. And that's why it's so exciting in the classroom, because things in the classroom tend to be quite static. They tend to be quite dense, and they rely a lot on memory, whereas improvisation doesn't rely on memory at all. You can get lots and lots of ideas from this encyclopedia. Just look it up on Google. It's the improvencyclopedia.org/ and you get improvisation games, improvisation references, and improvisation's glossary. I can't tell you how many exercises there are in there because I've never been able to count them yet, but they are absolutely superb, and you can just dip into it and you can pick one out and you can try it on your Zoom class or in your real classroom. How many of you are still teaching on Zoom? Just write in the chat box if you are still teaching on Zoom. Yes, yes, me, I am. me. Okay, yes, I'm sure that you are looking forward to the holidays, even though you might miss it when you're not doing it anymore. So we've gone quite quickly so far. I want to show you how to do it. I think I've defined it well enough, and I think you can see it in theory, but now what I want to express is that we are doing really English in action. English is about communication. Teaching English is not about teaching about the language. It's about teaching how to use the language in true forms of communication. And in improvisation, we just use what we've got. We've got ourselves full of exciting ideas, full of strategies. Our toolkit is brimming with activities to do. We've got the students who want to move, who want to think, who've got strong imaginations that they bring into the classroom every day. And what do we usually say to them? Sit down, sit still, don't speak, listen to me. In drama, especially in improvisation, we say, stand up, move about, just listen to the instructions and then get on with it. In other words, just do it. So it's not highly planned. There are pure forms of improvisation, which are at that moment. There are other forms of improvisation, which we do in English language teaching, where the students have a few moments to discuss what they're going to do. But you can use either. I have used either, and they bring different results. The spontaneous improvisation is usually weaker in the English language that the students produce. The planned improvisation is usually a little richer, but you can do either. In both cases, they lead to fluency. And this is one exciting strategy that I have tried out with students. You get them into pairs and you give them a line each. The ones on the A side have to say, you won't believe what he's done now. And the B people have to say, what? But then you get them to move away from each other. I'm going to move back just to show you how this works. You get them to move away from each other and you get them to turn around and then to come back and say, you won't believe what he's gone and done now. What? And then you go back, turn around, and you come back and you say, you won't believe what he's done now. What? Turn around, you go back, and then you walk together again. You won't believe what he's done now. What? And so you get them to do different registers, different characters, different moods, and use the words that you've given them. This is not pure improvisation, as you can see, but we're not dealing with language, first language students, we're dealing with second language students or foreign language students even in some cases. So these are some loops that you can use. Where did you get that money? I found it. Where did you get that money? I found it. Where did you get that money? I found it. You see how you can play with the words, and they really enjoy it as well. Some of them are really excellent at this. We have to talk, yes, but not now. I'm an expert on mushrooms. You don't know anything about mushrooms. I want my pineapple. I've told you, I threw it away. So you can make these up. You can have your students make them up themselves in pairs, and you can have them play it out for you. There are just a few golden rules. Students have to listen. So it's a great listening idea. They have to say yes. They can say yes and, or they can say yes, but. And they have to commit themselves to doing something. Those are the only rules really that we have in improvisation. And the wonderful thing about it, and I've watched a few TED Talks on this, which I can recommend, is that if you do this in life as well, it transforms your life. So if you listen, truly listen to what people are saying, and if you say yes instead of no, it can move forward. If you say yes and, you are contributing to the conversation. If you say yes, but, you are making the other person think. And if you are committed to this relationship and making it work, then all your relationships will be golden relationships because you're following the golden rules. I've got a little video. It's too long and I'm not going to play you the whole thing, but it has some improvisation ideas in it. The thing about improvisation is that it's very, very easy to prepare. You don't really have to prepare very, very much unless you're the sort of person who wants to give the students a script, in which case it's not improvisation. I never use a script. Well, that's not true. I have used a script on some occasions, but only when I was very young and I was a little bit nervous about not having a script. So these are some ideas which you can use. Now, I have to mute myself.
Great scene.
You missed a spot over there.
Thank you.
You missed a spot right here.
Oh, did I?
You missed a spot over
For me,
there.
improv to a degree is sort of like pop psychology as art. All the techniques that I emphasize in the class have more to do with how do people think and how do people see the world and how do they behave and why do we do the things that we do, and less about how can you be funny and what's the climax of your scene. Those things aren't important to me. What's important to me is the intrinsic human truth that we bring into every drama. I feel a stronger bond with my students in this class than I do in my other classes because every day we're taking risks. I do demonstrations for them specifically because I think it's important that they see I take risks. And I fail sometimes in my demos and we laugh. And it's a great place to make mistakes because it feels like that's just part of it, that life is about making mistakes. First, we did a warm-up where I had the class split into two groups and each group played the same elimination game. And it's called Zoom Schwartz Perfigliani. So if you just send a Zoom around.
Zoom.
Zoom.
It's Schwartz. What does a Schwartz do?
Sends it back.
Sends it back, right? So if Stefan sends me a Zoom?
Zoom.
Schwartz.
Oh, no. Zoom.
So what's a Perfigliani?
It's a fake out.
It's a fake out. So if he sends me a Zoom?
Zoom.
Perfigliani. I look at one person and it actually goes back to him. Okay? If somebody messes up, they switch circles.
Every time a person makes a mistake in their circle, they have to switch to the other circle. The idea being that as they're playing, it's okay if you make a mistake. It's all part of it, and you get to keep going and you get to play in another group. Part of the elimination is we all tend to laugh when a person gets eliminated, and it's about how can we laugh together at our mistakes and not feel like we're being mocked and not mock, and to laugh to create a sense of solidarity as opposed to put someone down.
We do a lot of games that where everyone loses face. That's what Mr. Way calls it. Well, it's just like really embarrassing and everybody looks like a complete idiot. But then after you get past that and you've done that enough, then you've seen everybody in the class look like an idiot and you've looked like an idiot, so you feel like anything goes.
Zoom. Zoom.
Zoom.
Zoom. Schwartz. Zoom.
Zoom. Zoom.
Perfigliani.
Zoom.
Zoom. Zoom. Zoom. Zoom.
Schwartz.
Zoom.
Zoom.
The other thing is that I always play with them so that they get a sense of the fact that I too can lose face. How do you deal with losing? It's okay. In improv, we're going to make mistakes and we're going to say things that we really should not have said. And that's all part of the process. And how do you deal with that? Well, you shrug it off and you move on and you laugh at it.
Well, in this class, it's all on the spot, so we have to trust the partners we're on stage with. We have to rely on them, hope that we're sort of all on the same page without planning.
Okay, let's get in a circle, please. Large circle.
Over the course of the year, the biggest thing that I've seen that has changed is focus. Their ability to concentrate.
The idea is we need to take 3 steps to get back into the middle because when we're really, really close to each other, it's home. Aww. You're going to need to take your 3 steps. If you take a step at the same time as somebody else, we start again. If there's a pattern, we start again. If somebody tells somebody else to go, we start again. If you communicate in any way besides to indicate that you are going to move, we start again.
I think teamwork and collective effort is very important in drama. I mean, especially in improv.
Don't be too anxious. Remember to take your time.
Oh my gosh.
It's getting hard for people to see. The idea of it is they need to put their group ahead of themselves. Is that everybody?
Yeah.
You actually didn't have to see them start again, but usually beginning of the year, they start again over and over and over again.
I like improv because, unlike regular life, I don't have to sit there and think about what I'm about to do. I can do it, and if it fails, I can rewind and do it again and do something different. So improv gives me a chance to explore those kinds of choices.
Do you remember the gift game where you give somebody something?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Ben is going to give me something, and it's going to be a boring gift, okay? It doesn't matter how boring the gift is, I'm going to respond with a really strong emotion. In fact, I could choose my emotional reaction in advance. Do you guys want to choose one for me? Angry. I will be angry, okay?
A hands a gift to B, and B accepts the gift and then responds emotionally. And they have to choose a strong emotion and justify it verbally.
I got you a snow globe.
A snow globe?
Well, I thought you like wintertime, and I know we live in Florida, but it's like snow in the...
It's a snow globe of Florida, and there's snow in it. It's Florida, there's snow in it.
I just really thought you'd like it.
Okay, and then at this point, he's going to, this is an elevation of the game, so he's going to describe it, and each element of that object, I'm going to heighten my emotional response. Okay.
What does this gift mean to me? Whatever I feel in that moment, it doesn't matter what I feel. I'm going to justify having a strong emotional reaction to whatever it is that you've given me. And it makes the other person look good because you're taking their offer and you're building on it, even if it's a quote-unquote.
Okay, great. I think you can see that what I said before was actually demonstrated in that video, where the students talked about regular life, where they could make mistakes and they could go back and fix them, where they could really, really look at how they operate in real life. And it gave them a lot of skills to be fluent. And this is what improvisation really does. It really leads to fluency. These are first liners, which I have used with students. Oh, and the one question which I'm sure you all have in your minds at the moment is, yes, this is all very well, but we're online. So how do we do it online? And okay. No, I can't minimize my screen. I'm not in control of this platform. It's not a Zoom. It's a different platform, and I'm not in control of it in that way. Many of the exercises that I used to do in the classroom, and I have hundreds and hundreds of exercises in my toolkit, I have adapted for online. And actually, I have done quite a few webinars on that. And I have changed them all so that they can be done online. Sorry about that phone. These are the one that he did at the end where he was giving a present. I have adapted that for online, and you just call out somebody's name in the room. I can't see any of you in the room, but you call out somebody's name in the room and you say, "Here is my Zoom present for you," and you pass it down or you pass it up or you pass it across, or you pass it to the other side, and the person catches it and opens it and says, "Oh, that's just what I wanted. How did you know I was looking for a new red scarf? Because I left mine on the train last week." So you accept the present and you respond to it. You can be angry if you wish, but it's often nicer to do the yes and. You could do the yes, but. So you can adapt almost everything for online, almost everything, not everything. So these are first liners. Get them into pairs, label them X and Y, or A and B, or Molly and Jack, whatever you want, and ask them to, one of them starts the improvisation. "Excuse me, I don't wish to be nosy, but," and then they have to complete the sentence, and the other person has to respond. "Trust you to spoil everything." Can you imagine the kind of response you would get to that? "Don't you dare bring my mother into this." "I've got an apology to make." "I beg your pardon?" "Oh, is it the measles? I shouldn't tell you this, but." So these are first liners, and you can make up as many of them as you want. You can get your students to make them up, but when you first start doing improvisation, it's often good to give them. And then sharing ideas. I call this 2 by 2 because it's students in groups of 2 sharing opposite ideas. Questions people don't usually ask you. What color is your toothbrush? Which sock do you put on first? Where do you keep your mask when you're not wearing it? And then, what's the best thing that's ever happened to you? What's the worst thing that's ever happened to you? What do Sundays feel like for you compared with other days? Tell me 2 jobs you would really love to do if you weren't teaching. Tell me 2 discoveries that you have made about yourself. And then one person tells the other dreams, tells them about their dreams. One dream is true and one dream is false. And the other person has to guess which is true. So lots and lots of very, very simple ideas. Somebody once asked me, "Where do you get your ideas from?" And I said, "I just sit and I watch people. I see how people behave. I look at their reactions. I listen to their voices. I watch the expressions on their faces. And that's where I get my ideas from. Just looking at life, because life is improvisation and improvisation is life." And some more ideas before we finish this part. Do the interview. Ask your group to run around the house and bring back items and interview them about the items. So you say to them, "Okay, show me your item," and they bob down below the screen and they show that item and they interview the item itself. That's not very clear on my screen, is it? Is this better? Ah, yes. Good morning, Scissors. How do you feel today? "Oh, I feel great. I've got an audience today, and that always makes me feel good and happy and excited. And also, I had a good job to do this morning. I had to pack up a present for my little granddaughter. and it was so exciting. I had to cut the sellotape many times, and it was really good fun. And my parent, my mum, really liked me because I helped her a lot with her parcel this morning. I can't see me very well, but there you are. That's what I've been doing. So you could do this with any object that the students bring from the house. It can be any object. I've just put some up there, but it could be anything. And then I am from. Where are you from? I am from White Christmases. I am from autumn leaves in the park. I am from going to the wood shops with my father. I am from Singapore, from Thailand, from Malaysia. I am from sambal keluak. I am from the smells of spices, from cooking in the kitchen on hot summer days. I am from beautiful moonlit nights, sitting under the stars in the camp, in the tent, sleeping there at night, getting up with the sounds of the cock crowing and going out of the tent and looking at the sun coming up. I am from the Beatles. I am from John Lennon. I am from Sir Ken Robinson. Those are the places I am from. Ask your students to think about what they have done in their lives that has shaped them and made them who they are today. And then you can play, I am here to. I am here to make your life miserable. I am here to make your life a shocking shame. I am here to make you feel that you are unable to carry on. My name is Zoom. So you can have them take on different characters, different objects. And you can ask them to bring treasures from their stock of treasures. And they can do the I am here with that treasure. This is actually an ink pot from Guilin in China. And the ink pot can also talk. I am from the rivers. I'm from the fast flowing rivers of Guilin. I am from the mountains, the cone-shaped mountains. I am from the fishermen in the boat, throwing out the net to gather in the fish for today's meals. I am from the cormorant who sits on the boat, watching the fisherman do his tasks for the day. I am from the old China. And you can ask them to look for any kinds of objects in the house that really remind them of their past. And you can ask them to talk about their past with those objects. So you can use the house, use the people in the house. You can even ask them to interview their parents and show you on Zoom the kinds of questions that they are asking their parents. So I'm going to stop here now. I hope you've got lots and lots of great ideas, and we're going to have a presentation now from Alejandra. So I give over stage to Alejandra. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much, Susan. And now we're going to listen to Ale Otolina. Hello, Ale. How are you?
Hello, Mariana. How are you? Everything okay?
Fantastic. Yes. Well, it's all yours.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. It's great to share at least part of this beautiful morning, okay, with so many nice people from Patagonia. And the idea today is to talk about some books, because I know this is a time when we start thinking about next year. And hopefully we will have lessons, we will have normal classes next year, and maybe we can choose a very good book, okay? So I want to show you some of our material so that you can make good, clever decisions, right? First of all, we're going to start with We Are Heroes. We Are Heroes is a 6-level course. It's from primary. Hello, Natalia from Cadet Olivia. Okay, hello, everybody. Good. Nice to see you. I cannot see you actually, but I can read your messages. So, We Are Heroes, I was telling you, is a 6-level course, book and workbook. And what is interesting is that it's got a certain philosophy. It's got pillars, okay? And the pillars in the philosophy are the ones you can see there. Integrated skills. I mean, you have sections for listening and speaking, but at the same time, we work on skills integration, because after all, that is real life, as Susan was saying, okay? Hello, Romina, thank you. Another important pillar is no frustration. And I always say that at Macmillan, we do know our reality, because very often when books come from another country, the book may be very good, but very often we find out, and very often late, that it's not quite suitable because our reality requires something different. Argentina is special. We teachers are different. Our students are also special, okay? So we have very large groups, and we have a lot of mixed ability, and we are having a lot of special educational needs in our classes. So this idea of no frustration is very important, because the course has been developed in such a way that everybody can participate, everybody can do the activities, because everything is doable. Another very important feature, and something that teachers ask all the time for, is texts. Varied text types, and as much as possible that these texts do look authentic. So this is exactly what we have done in We Are Heroes. A lot of vocabulary, because vocabulary represents the bricks that then, together with the grammar, are going to make up the big wall that is the language itself. So we need a lot of vocabulary. And of course, grammar, yes, there is a section for grammar. Grammar is very clearly explained, but at the same time, it is segmented because it's realistic. We are never going to find on one single page in the book all have and has together, affirmative, interrogative, and negative. Not that, because we know that even if they understand it, they are not going to produce it. So the grammar has been segmented in such a way that we guarantee production, okay? And I was telling you that it comes together with a workbook. Yes, but workbook is not just any workbook, it's full color. And I mean full color, not just 2 colors. Also, it's very important to point out that when you buy any of our books, books come with a code, and that code gives you access to extra material, to a resource center, to the ebook without paying extra money. Okay, so with the book, you've got access to a lot of extra material, and also you have then the workbook that is full color. And as a teacher, you know that when you adopt Macmillan, we give you the teacher's book, and your teacher's book will also have another code that will give you access to what students have, plus your own extras, because you will have downloadable audios, you will have a visual aids booklet, a lot of other things. Now, we do pay attention to teachers before launching any material. We organize focus groups, and we discuss with teachers of the segment what is it that they need. And what teachers always complain about is the fact that very often the upper levels are like childish, and they are not gradual enough. So they've got a lot of language, but the look is gradual. So what we have done is design special contexts, create special contexts that will allow us to introduce characters, situations, and then grammar and vocabulary that are suitable for the level. Levels 1 and 2 happen or levels 1 and 2 have a specific context, and the actions happen in what we call a heroes club. And if you look at the photograph, you can see these cartoon characters, but in the background, it's the real world, because this represents the balance between fantasy and reality that children at this age need. These little children grow up and they move to 3rd and 4th grade. And so you can see this in the book. And the context is different now. They leave the Heroes Club, they leave the school, and they move out into the community, the neighborhood, the area, because this is the community, okay? And this will allow students to interact with all the other people who live in the area, helping perhaps an old gentleman who lives alone, or this sort of thing that will guarantee, yes, using the language, but at the same time developing values, highlighting values, respecting others, helping others, catering for others' needs. And moving on to 5th and 6th grade, now they are pre-teens and they go digital and they like all this computer world. And so the context is virtual, okay? These children, these young teens interact with children from different parts of the world through blogs and vlogs, okay? And this allows us to talk about culture, to talk about traditions, to talk about clothes, to talk about different countries that sometimes sound far away, but also have things in common. So all the time there is this principle of, okay, this is from another country. Now what happens here? What happens in your province? What happens in your city? Comparing cultures. Now, I told you that I believe we know our reality, and I told you that very often we have to pay attention to students' needs, and our students' needs are different from other children in other countries, okay? So the big question is first form. If you teach first grade, you will know that we have a problem very often because most books come with a lot of writing there, and our children are beginning to read and write in the mother tongue. And of course, English shows no connection between graphemes and phonemes. So this material, although it is international, it has been adapted here in Argentina by experts to suit your needs. This is an example of level 1. And as you can see, the first part has nothing written there. It's all pictures and audio and a lot of oral work. And gradually, as from Unit 4, in the second part of the book, you do get words, very simple things, and in block capitals, because that is what we need. I also mentioned different kinds of texts, different kinds of contexts, and authenticity. You will see in the picture on the right that I'm sure your kids will say, wow, I want to eat the chocolate ice cream. Maybe they say it in Spanish, it doesn't matter. Or somebody will say, oh, look over there, it looks like a worm or something. And when they say that, even if it is in Spanish, it means they are paying attention. And it means we can start teaching because they are hooked on. So that is great. We have paid a lot of attention to all this. Okay, now let's go down. Let's see. I'm trying to go down. Give me a second. Oh, okay, here we are. Right. I mentioned texts. Yes. And no, before. Just a second. Oh, okay, here we are. Stories. The book has got stories of different types, or short texts, visual impact, things to react to, but at the same time, short stories. And stories grow with the children. This is, for example, from level 3, and you see that it has got texts, but all the time it's got values. This is a story about a young king who only eats carrot salad, carrot cake, carrot whatever. And the mother is very worried because the mother says, come on, you need to eat a lot of varied food types because if not, you are not eating healthy food. Until one day, the king wakes up and he sees that he is orange. So, of course, he decides to start eating varied food. He starts eating hamburgers and chips. So, he has more friends because now he eats the same as other kids, but at the same time, mom was right, okay? And at the same time, food is important. So there is a lot of extras there apart from the language. Now, also, apart from texts and stories, there are also longer texts. You've got shorter comic strips that aim at life skills, the idea of sharing, the idea of respecting others, the idea of worrying about how others feel. And in this case, in levels 1 and 2, you've got this comic strip. In this case, there is one carrot left, and so they have to chop it up and share the pieces so that everybody eats the same amount of food. Now, in the digital component, you will see that this is animated. As they grow up, they don't have these comic or cartoon characters. They have real children of their own age talking in videos that they can see, okay? I mentioned also, let's see, here we are. I mentioned the workbook. The workbook is a masterpiece. It's full of critical thinking activities. You are not going to get the traditional boring grammar exercises. And as you can see, it is really full color. Your children will love doing the workbook. And I mentioned at the beginning the fact that this is a series through which we try to avoid frustration because we believe that if you've got 30 in your classroom, then the 30 should learn something. Maybe they've got their own timing. Okay, maybe one student learns more. Maybe one student has better pronunciation. Maybe one is better at grammar. Yes, but everybody can learn something. And so to guarantee this, even with students who may have some difficulty, because now we've got a law that guarantees inclusion. And very often in this segment, when we speak about 5 hours of English a week, in these schools, we often have children with special needs. So we have what we call the Zen project, Special Educational Needs Project. And this has got different aspects. On the one hand, in our website, you've got theory. You've got different articles that you can download and read, and they will teach you about the, what dyslexia is, what ADD is, and in general terms, how to cater for these needs. But at the same time, we need to be practical. And we've got this in our classroom. So what we have done is adapt some of the material. We cannot produce a book for dyslexic children and another book for children with autism. No, these are special conditions, and these are children who need very, very specific things. But at the same time, in general terms, there are some things that coincide. There are things that work with everybody, with a child who is within the autistic spectrum, with a child who is ADD, or with a child who's got reading trouble. So in this material, in the digital part, in the digital component, you will download, your students will be able to download also accommodations, okay? Different accommodations for you to photocopy. And actually, if the accommodation is good enough, you will see that everybody, the ones with special needs and the ones that don't have any special condition, everybody can work using the accommodation, because these are accommodations that aim at the same thing, at the same grammar, at the same reading, but in a different way, It makes the material, the text, the grammar, the vocabulary more accessible. Only that. Okay? If you have any questions, you may ask me, no problem. I can read what you write. And I mentioned the digital material, and you can see everything you get through just entering your code, photocopiables, song worksheets, record sheets that you can use, presentation word cards, classroom word cards, digital flashcards, the Zen material, everything you want. Now, apart from We Are Heroes, which will make your students feel they can learn English, and this is why we have chosen this name. We are heroes, not a superhero, a normal hero. Okay, everybody can become a hero. If you teach more than 5 periods of English a week, probably you are in a school where you have international exams, either Cambridge or, for example, Trinity. Then we've got this other series, which is Give Me 5. Give Me 5 is for more than 5 periods of English a week, more than 5 contact hours, and it's got these pillars. It engages the student, it builds their confidence, because we need their full communication in English and a different kind of communication, not so much grammar-based communication. It has to be more of a bilingual type. And so also we've got the development of 21st century skills, a student who needs to be able to persuade an audience, a student who needs to be fluent in English, and to be fluent and communicate, you also have to pay attention to the interlocutor. And of course, you need practice for international exams without being so specific, in the sense that you've got Trinity and Cambridge, but we also know that there are some other boards, and very often the exams are very similar, especially those for children. Okay. Something very interesting is that it's powered by Navio. Navio is a very interesting platform, a very interesting app that I will show you in a minute, will give you a sense of, or will add salt and pepper, in the sense that it's based on gamification. So children will be practicing in such a way that they will not realize that they are practicing. They will think that they are playing. Now, something very interesting is that this series has got the 3 C's. The focus is on the 3 C's: communication, collaboration, and listen to this, celebration. As teachers, we very often think about mistakes, especially when we have exams, external or international exams. We focus on mistakes. And it should not be so. This book is completely different in that respect. It makes your students communicate nicely, effectively, having fun, in such a way that there is even a song for celebration, a song to congratulate somebody who has done well. Okay, so this is really very, very positive, and it's a series that I love because it's very effective, actually. And we don't have time to walk through all the unit, but I will show you a few things. This is from level 1. So important here, this has not been adapted. This is an international series. So you can see that it's got a lot of writing. So if your students are just beginning to read and write, then this is not an option. If your students already bring literacy from kinder, this is a fantastic option. But we need writing skills here. Okay? There are songs. There is a lot of visual material to exploit. In this lesson, Ready for School, we are teaching, of course, classroom language. We are teaching prepositions and ready for school. But this child who is ready to go to school, look, everything is on the floor. Okay, so the song tells you one thing, but at the same time, the song is saying, check that everything is ready. So again, this idea of values, this idea of 21st century skills. We always teach something extra apart from the language, apart from grammar and vocabulary. Whatever you teach is practiced in a fun way, okay? Acting out, stickers, pictures. And I will go down. Then there are, of course, stories. Stories are essential. And you know that stories are essential, first because we have fun. Children love stories, but at the same time, you know that when the child is listening to a story, the child's brain is working in a very special way because a story has got a beginning, a middle part, and an ending. And that is a sequence. And the order cannot be changed. So that is the beginning of mathematical thinking. This is why stories are so important, okay? And the stories here, again, have got a lot of values. In this case, there is a lovely dog called Toby, and Toby goes with kids everywhere, but these kids have got a magic bicycle. The bicycle has got special powers, basically to solve situations or to generate difficulties for the children to solve. In this case, the dog goes with the kids to school and he starts playing on the bicycle. The magic bicycle goes crazy and puts things in different places, making the whole classroom a real mess. While this happens in 2 seconds, okay, because of the magic powers of the bicycle, while the teacher is writing on the board. But the bicycle, in the same way, puts everything back into the right place. But in the meantime, the children ask, and where's my pencil case? And where's my backpack? And where is this and that, to teach prepositions of place. And when the teacher turns round, she says, wow, everything is so tidy. How nice. Values again. Keeping things in order, putting things in their right way, in their right place. All stories are like this. In this type of school and with this number of contact towers, we need to work on pronunciation in some way. And this is short and sweet, a little bit of phonics. There are tongue twisters, drawing students' attention to difficult sounds and how that sound may be spelled. But all the time in context, putting together the pronunciation with the grammar and vocabulary. Of course, also culture, because of international exams. You know that international exams have got these cultural aspects that if we don't introduce them, then the children fail because our reality is different. So they need something about England. They need to know things about the culture and traditions of the country, the language of which they are learning. So another important thing is that every unit finishes in this this activity that is video watching with some very specific skills development. It's watching a video to do something else, okay? And the aim is clearly explained at the bottom, but all the time the idea is that they will watch the video, do some activities in the book, in the workbook, and things suggested in the teacher's book, but then compare with their own culture. Of course, nice to act out. Yes, Andrea, the stories are lovely. There's another story that I love that is the children go to a zoo and they find an egg, but it doesn't look like a normal egg, the ones you use for cooking. So they walk around the zoo looking at the animals and looking carefully at the egg to try and guess whose egg that may be, until they come to the penguins and they discover that it belongs to that mother penguin. And so they leave it there and the little baby is born. All the stories are really very, very sweet. And of course, the workbook, putting together the vocabulary, the grammar, all of that. Children grow, so I want to show you how. This is level 4. You see that the texts look different, the photos look different. There's a very interesting writing program including the type of activities that maybe they may be asked at an international exam. I mentioned the digital part, and that is Navio. As usual, you enter your code, you log in, and what is interesting about Navio is that it allows you to do absolutely everything. You can create your class, you follow your students' work, you've got the lessons ready to tap and teach. You press there or you tap and everything comes out and you just teach without anything else because everything is there. And to practice, you've got interactive, let's see, it's loading. Okay, interactive practice. But what is very interesting is this part. This is the gamification part. It's like a 3D parallel world, and there is this this little thing, this little avatar that the child creates, and they play. What is important is that when they do things right, they can score, and with the points they get, they can buy, with inverted commas, things. For example, they can buy clothes so that the avatar has got a new look. And so they are playing. They don't realize that they are practicing English, okay? And the effect is great also because they often play, of course they can play in class, but they often play at home. So it becomes excellent for this pandemic situation. But if not, we go back to normal next year, it will be the perfect link between home and school. So that will be really, really good. Then, this is about Give Me 5. So we have seen We Are Heroes for 5 hours, more than 5 hours, Give Me 5. And sometimes when you teach, let's say 3-4 hours of English a week, and your students are at the end of primary or beginning of secondary, we very often look for some specific kind of material, something that is simple, something that is attainable, something that is motivating, that looks modern, attractive, and at the same time with this no frustration sake. So those of you who know On the Pulse, this year we are launching On the Pulse second edition. Again, it's 4 levels with 2 possibilities for the beginners. We've got a starter level, and a level 1 for those who already know something but need to revise. Ideally, it is for lower secondary, but we know many teachers use it in 5th and 6th grade because it's so effective and so clear and transparent that they love it. Now, this year, the new edition has got some differences. The students will buy 1 book, but the book will have the students, the workbook, and also the skills builder at the back upside down. So 3 books and 1, plus the code to access the digital material. More impossible. And this series will also have the Zen special educational needs component. It will also have accommodations. It will also have a little bit of theory in the tips in every lesson in the teacher's book, and also the tests will be adapted for children with special needs. The whole series has been renewed, having more air. What we call air is more white part on the page, more white parts in the page, making it clearer, more transparent, not so loaded, okay? The vocabulary always presented in context. The stronger points were the texts and the grammar in the old edition. That is what teachers love. So we have kept it, okay? The grammar goes on into columns, use and form for students to discover the rules, and very interesting texts, updated. Most of the texts are new. It will also have a lot of suggestions in the teacher's book on which apps to use and how. These modern apps that we have used all throughout this year Well, we have taken advantage of this and we have included all that in the teacher's book. But as you can see, for example, the Barcelona Football Club, this is something nice students love. And if students love it, the lesson becomes manageable and the group becomes manageable. And that is what we need. So, okay, the workbook again, full color with a lot of extra material. So much material that you may use it with 4 hours, and sometimes if you use everything, even 4 or 5, okay? And something else that we have added, projects. In the old edition, we had just 2 projects. Now there is 1 project at the end of every unit, and the projects are really original. In this case, talking about places where we live, well, they have to look for on the internet or invent, imagine, and create a tiny house. Then they have to draw the plan, they have to describe the house. But look at this. Normally you think designing a house or downloading an image of a house, well, I use it to teach or practice there is and there are. Yes, they are practicing there is and there are and have and has, but then they have to make a presentation to the group, showing what they have drawn, showing the picture they have chosen, but also explaining, using simple past, how they felt, why they liked it, and so on. So you see this like language integration then becomes very, very natural, and with the possibility to choice. You want to do it digitally, you do it digitally. If you want to do it on a sheet of paper, you just do it on a sheet of paper. And we are running out of time, so very briefly, if you teach adults or higher secondary, upper secondary, we have this new series, Language Hub. And the idea of a hub, like a place or a device where everything is put together. A place where the language is put together so that communication flows. What is original? Well, you will see now the material, but we have this year all the levels. Last year we had just a few. You've got all the levels from A1 to C1, okay? So that's very interesting. And the strong points are, of course, the texts that are very original, the visual impact with phrases or quotes for children, for students in this case, to discuss, a lot of critical thinking, a lot of what students at this age like. You know that the adults, the same as teenagers, if they don't speak, they just want to leave the course, because for them, language is to be, English is to be spoken. They are not interested in grammar. Very often they are not interested in writing. So it's very important. And you do have it here, a lot of speaking throughout all the pages in the book. So, summing up, we have seen very briefly 4 series. I know that maybe you remember something and you have questions. If you have questions, if you want to see an inspection copy, contact first of all Mariana Manuel, our representative in Patagonia, but if not, you can get to all of us using social media. We are always ready to send you material, to answer your questions, to share opinions. And if next year you adopt, remember that we may also offer you training sessions for you, for your colleagues, both on the printed book and on the digital material. It's been a great pleasure, and now I know that you want to go on with Susan, so all the best. Thank you, Susan, for giving me these few minutes. Okay, thank you very much, and see you soon. Bye.
Thank you very much. And yes, of course, you can contact me if you want to see samples of the material. And now we're going to wait for Susan for a little bit. She's there. So welcome back, Susan.
Hello.
Thank you all for being there. Oh, okay. I leave you with to continue. Thanks.
Thank you, Mariana. Thank you, Alejandra. And what struck me during Alejandra's presentation was that we can apply improvisation to every page on every one of those books. And this is where it comes in as being very, very useful for you. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat box and Mariana or Juliana will collect them for me and I will answer you at the end. I hope to leave a little bit of time at the end for you. So moving on from where we were, a very nice improvisation situation is to do role reversal. And it's very important that you set up all of your improvisations very, very carefully. I always say to my students, listen, process the information and visualize the action. And don't move until I tell you this. Lights, sound, action. So I do the clapperboard with my hands, a bit like a crocodile. And I tell them the situation. I set up where it's going to happen, what it's about, who the characters are that are in it. And I ask them to see the action in their heads while I'm explaining it. I usually explain it twice, and then I do not say to them, do you all understand? I have banned that from my teacher's classroom language, because if you say, do you understand? They will say, because nobody's going to say, no, I don't understand. So say to them, if you don't understand, ask now or forever hold your peace, as from the church ritual in Catholicism and Protestantism. That's just a joke, by the way. Hope nobody's offended. And ask them to make sure that they do ask you, they don't see it in their heads, because they need to visualize it. This idea of visualization comes from a book which came out in the 80s, I believe, in the late 80s, called The Inner Game of Tennis. And it explained from a psychological point of view how tennis players, or indeed any skilled player of any game, or any artist or any actress, needs to visualize themselves doing the actions perfectly. And in visualizing it, they can see how it works, and they can even change their gameplay. They can even improve by visualizing it. So ask them to visualize the action using the instructions that you've given them. And then tell them, get into pairs quickly, don't spend ages, get into pairs with somebody near you, or if you're on Zoom, decide who you're going to work with, or tell them you are going to work with whoever and put them in breakout rooms. Label yourselves X and Y and explain to them, X is Sergio and Y is the teacher. Sergio is very talented, but he's very lazy. The teacher says, Sergio, you've got talent, but no application. So that's the situation. It's a first liner again. And then you get them to play it. All the class is working at the same time. This is the great thing about improvisation. Everybody's working at the same time. Nobody's watching anybody. Nobody's in the limelight, because students very often find it difficult to stand out in front of people and speak. It's like public speaking. It's one of the things people get very, very afraid of in their first language, never mind in their second language. And so you have them all working, trying it out. And then you say, okay, put your hand up. This means do what I'm doing. It doesn't mean stop. It means stop and do what I'm doing. So you wait for everybody to have their hand up and to have zipped it, locked it, put the key in their pocket. Zipped it, locked it, put the key in their pocket. And you say, okay, is there any pair who would like to come out and show us? At the beginning, there won't be anybody. Doesn't matter. You say, okay, fine. We're going to go on to the next improvisation. If there is, you can have them come out, and now we are teaching our class to become the audience. And we have rules for the audience as well. We have rules like this: sit and concentrate and listen carefully. You may laugh, you may cry, and you must applaud at the end. You applaud not for acting ability, because we're not an acting school. We're learning the English language. We do not applaud for quality of English language. We applaud for participation. The more your students participate, the more they make the lesson dynamic. I always said to my students, you are the ones who make or break the lesson, not me. I just come with the ideas. But if you engage and you participate and you share and you let other people see how you can make mistakes, how you try to do your best, then we all are enriched. And so we applaud at the end of the improvisation for participation. Then we go back into the same pairs and we reverse the roles. So Y becomes Sergio and X becomes the teacher. And so they play the same situation, but they reverse the roles. So in this way, they are stepping into other people's shoes. And this is where the empathy of drama is established. We teach empathy, but we don't just say, be empathetic because it's going to save the world and look what a mess the world is in at the moment. We teach them how to be empathetic by putting them into other people's shoes, by doing role play with them. And then they feel it. They feel how somebody else feels. They feel how somebody is embarrassed, or they feel how someone is angry, or they feel how someone is upset. This is the only way we can actually teach empathy. We can't teach it by telling them to be empathetic. So this role reversal is absolutely fantastic for working on their emotional development, working on their social development, which is what mindfulness is all about. I don't like to give it that name because I've always been doing mindfulness. I think all good teachers have always been doing mindfulness because we are aware of our students' well-being and we need to develop their well-being. This is why I always start my Zoom classes with breathing exercises, body exercises, voice exercises, brain gym, and why I always have brain breaks in my Zoom classes by doing some kind of energizer or doing some kind of settler or getting them to concentrate through doing a concentration exercise. And I think it's really important, not only in the regular face-to-face classroom, but more so in Zoom classes where they're sitting looking at a screen, and it's very hard to create a bonding relationship. It's very hard to create the atmosphere that you can create in the classroom, but there are ways and means of doing it, I believe. There's one that I used to do in the classroom, which I always called from the walls. I got them into pairs and I said, okay, A's to this end of the room, B's, bzz, 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 busy bees to that end of the room. Stay in line with your partner. So get into pairs first. Then move them to both ends of the room. Remember to tell them, don't move until I give you the instructions. So you don't move them yet. You tell them you're going to meet an old friend unexpectedly. Both of you went to school together. You were friends for years and years and years. You then went to training college together. You then went as teachers in the same school. And you were really the best of friends. You knew everything about each other. Suddenly, your friend tells you that they've got a secret job and they have to leave. And they just disappear. Those are the A's. The A's are the ones who disappear. The B's stay on at the same school. And maybe they get married, maybe they have a family, maybe they take on another job as well after school. Anyway, 5 years goes by and you're out shopping for Christmas, and on the high street, you suddenly see your old friend who hasn't been in touch with you for 5 years. What do you do? What do you say? What do you talk about? What is the conclusion of this unexpected meeting? So then you send them to the walls, you ask them to visualize it as you're doing it, send them to the walls and you say, lights, sound, action. And they walk together as though they're walking on the high street and they meet. I'm sure you are visualizing your students doing this now. If we had our mics on, I would have you all do it. I would have you all do it on Zoom and we would have this amazing sound. Oh, is it you? Oh my goodness, it's really you. And the sound in the room is absolutely amazing. And you let them work together. The whole class is working as before. You let them work together for 2 minutes maximum, and then you say, and they all do the same thing, and silence falls, and then you say, would anybody like to show us what they did? Of course, it won't be the same. It doesn't have to be the same. It won't be the same, but that's okay, that's fine. So we can do lots and lots of different improvisations. For example, returning a faulty iron or returning a faulty laptop to a shop. In this case, you would get the shopkeeper on one wall and the person carrying the faulty item on the other wall. And you would do your lights, sound, action. And they would walk to the shop, and you can have the shops scattered about a bit actually if you're in a classroom. You can do this in breakout rooms, and then they can come back to the main hall and they can actually do their improvisation in front of you, and they can do the movements to go with it as well. So they are imagining the improvisation, if you like. And the third one, which is one out of hundreds and hundreds that I have in my head. Parents are waiting for their child to return at the stipulated time, but the child has not arrived. So this would be in threes. So you would have to get them into threes for this. And you would have to have the parents talking to each other, and then the child arrives. What happens? What do they say? What kind of mood are they in by this time? The great thing about improvisation is that it really creates a dynamic classroom. And this is the kind of energy that is produced when you let students be themselves, when you give them the liberty to play. And through the play, they establish this kind of continuous synergy between the classroom, the institution, the educational system, and the social system. This is why it's so good for SEL, social and emotional learning, which can be considered part of mindfulness or not. They really begin to understand the human condition, and they really begin to rehearse for situations they're going to be in when they go outside the four walls of the classroom or the four walls of their houses. And they meet people in unexpected situations, and they have to improvise. They have to improvise with their second language. The other person is probably speaking their second language as well. This is what fascinates me about all the traveling that I have done in the past. Not this year, not this year, only 3 conferences face-to-face this year. But in the past, I have traveled a lot, and I love just standing in airports or sitting in airports and listening to people conversing and watching how they react to each other and how the body language is different. And this is what improvisation does. It teaches our students English language body language, English language proximity to each other. You know how English people are supposed to have the stiff upper lip, and they're not touchy-feely at all like Argentines are. And this is something which is changing, of course, because everything evolves. But they certainly do like to have a space between them. They have their little bubble around them. They don't like to get too close. And of course, in China, it's different again. The Chinese are definitely not touchy-feely. So the setting is given by this unbreakable relationship between the school and the environment. And it has to be addressed through a subject like drama, which is holistic. It has this holism in it because it teaches the spice of education, as I'm always saying. It promotes communitarian development. It creates citizens of that society. It promotes values of that society. It promotes empathy, emotional understanding, social development, physical development, intellectual development, and creative development. And this is what other subjects fail to do, in my humble opinion. It really leads to fluency. Look at these students. Look at the joy on their faces and look at how confident they are. This is one of the C's in drama that improvisation really promotes: confidence. And this is what we want our students to have in the English language. We want, as I always say, my motto, confidence first, fluency second, accuracy third. If we go the other way around and we start off forcing them to be accurate, they will get afraid. And that's when they stop taking risks, and that's when they get on the plateau, of non-improvement. There's a new idea out, well, since 2011, willingness to communicate. It's WTC. How do you get your students to be willing to communicate? Verbally. As Alejandra said, most older students want to speak. They see the English language as being a form of communication. They don't want to do grammar. They don't want to do writing. So teach them to speak. Let them improvise. And you can see in these pictures that the students are all involved. They're all engaged. They are proud of themselves as well. They can hold their heads up high. They can hold their chin up. They can get their shoulders back. They learn how to stand. They learn how to use a microphone. They learn how to use their bodies for meaning. And this is what is involved in improvisation. We are talking about social cohesion. And if you've read Freire, Education of the Oppressed, if you've read Augusto Boal, who was Freire's contemporary, Augusto Boal was particularly concerned with teaching drama in the favelas and Freire was more into dialogic action in the favelas, but they taught for inclusion. They taught so that people could develop a sense of identity. Who am I? I used to have a poster on my office wall saying, my best teacher taught me who I am. And this is, I think, one of the things we need to do through the English language. So they have a sense of identity, of being a bilingual person, of having an identity in Spanish, an identity in English, and the two things are cohesive. The two things go together and make me who I am, just as we did the poem, I Am From. So we develop this sense of identity all the time. I've always believed that teaching English had to involve education. We are educators. We are not just mere language teachers. We develop this sense of belonging in the classroom with each other. As Stephen Way said, he always goes in and joins in with the games in the circle. He becomes a student for that time when he's in the classroom. And it creates this big sense of family. It creates this big sense of soul, so that we are using our brain, our mind, our heart, our soul. We are using our body, the speaking body in the empty space, to express who we are. And in fact, Parker Palmer talks about this as well in his book, The Courage to Teach. I recommend it to you if you haven't read it yet. We also instill this idea of hope. I have always understood hope to be one of the qualities of an educated person. The person who doesn't hope has lost all essence, has lost all his or her essence for life. And I think we all need to have hope, especially in these uncertain times that we are living at this moment. And that's why I'm so proud of you all in the way that you have risen to the occasion of having to change overnight from teaching face-to-face and teaching on Zoom, because it is very, very different. It's much harder. It takes lots more time, and it takes lots more thinking. How am I going to do this? How am I going to get it across in the way I used to be able to get it across in the classroom? How am I going to help the struggling ones? How am I going to help the weak ones? Well, drama can do that for you. It also creates aspiration, especially for the marginalized groups. You know that I have taught English through drama in special education here in Buenos Aires. I have trained a group of teachers to work in 26 schools, and we had quite a measure of success, even with students who had cerebral palsy and were confined to wheelchairs, who couldn't even speak in Spanish, but we brought them joy. We brought them joy and challenge. And this is what Dorothy Hethcote always talks about. Education must be a situation of joy and challenge. And every class must develop the students in a way that they walk out of the classroom feeling that they have changed in that 40 minutes, feeling that they have grown. And this is what we need to do with our students. So what is social cohesion? Well, improvisation works towards the well-being of all the members in your group, whoever they are. It fights exclusion and marginalization. It creates this sense of belonging. It promotes trust. In improvisation, it's amazing how the students get to know each other. It's incredible how they learn to trust. In fact, we have quite a lot of trust games that we do as warm-ups. It offers its members the opportunity of upward social mobility. And this is where they learn things for life. Drama is life-changing. It is transformational. It can make your shy students blossom. I have seen very, very shy students blossom in my classes because, and we don't really understand this yet, but because we put on the mask of drama. And behind that mask, they can stop being themselves. They can stop being the shy person that they believe they are. And they can become somebody else, stepping into somebody else's shoes. So they can become the actress. They can become the singer. They can become the excellent football player. They can become the scientist who knows a lot about something. They can really get into what Sir Ken Robinson called their element. And we should be helping our students to find their element first by offering them lots and lots of different skills to develop, and by offering them time and space. It only takes time and space. When you do it, if you dare do it, you will see that the students really react positively, and they will shock you. I have had so much fun in my teaching for all those years. In whatever country I've been in, whatever religion I'm teaching, whatever social group I'm teaching, whatever ability, whatever age range, and I have taught in kindergarten, primary, secondary, and adult classes. And I have been shocked, amazed, thrilled with the responses of my students. Even the weak ones, even the ones who seem to be weak in the English language, can blossom. So it works beautifully on inclusion. They forget who they are. They forget that they are weak, and they forget about learning the language because they just do it, like the Nike advert, as I said before. Some more opening lines. Miss, this means mossa in English. It's to the waitress. Miss, Miss, I'm afraid I did not order a hot dog for dinner. How does that pan out? How does it develop? Look, I know you hate this, but we need at least one good photo of you. What is the response? So, Jordan, please explain why Paul's homework was in your backpack. How does it develop? Officer, please, no, don't give me a speeding ticket. Where does that go? Do you think Mother would like the gold crown or the silver one for her 80th birthday? So great ideas that you can get from anywhere. Here are some more ideas. The box in the park. A group of students, you get them into groups of 4 or 5 for this. They're walking through, these are the situations. The box, they're walking through the park, and suddenly they see a box. They can decide if it's a tiny box, if it's a huge box, if it's a hexagonal box, if it's a square box, if it's rectangular, if it's a globe box, any kind of box at all. And what happens? What do they do? And when they've done what they do, what happens? I have had some amazing responses to that one. Then you can do at the chemist, at the hairdressers, at the drugstore, at the newsagents. You can do at the anywhere, at the airport, at the swimming pool, at the ice rink. You can do anything you like. What are the movements that go with it? What are the moods that go with it? What is the English that goes with it? What is the register? What pronunciation do you need to work on? What vocabulary do you need to work on? You may work on the vocabulary for any of these ideas I've given you today. You may work on the vocabulary first. You may demonstrate yourself, or you may demonstrate with another student. But you feed in a little bit, you do a little bit of input, not too much. We're not teaching about the language, we're teaching them how to use the language. Number 3, party guests find a spider in the soup, or party guests find a spider in the bathroom. What happens? A day in the life of. So then, a little bit like my scissors that I showed you before, you take on the persona of an object. So you personify an object and you act out what happens in a day of that object. And they do a kind of soliloquy. They speak their thoughts out loud. For example, a day in the life of a coin. Oh, it's so hot sitting in this pocket. Oh, I can't stand it any longer. I hope he goes and buys something because I'm going to faint in a minute. Oh my goodness. Oh, he's walking so slowly as well. I know he's walking slowly because it's hot, but I need him to get to the shops a little bit quicker than this, or I'm gasping for air. Let me out, etc., etc. And then another nice one, number 5, is the 3 faces of me. This really works on identity. This comes from a book by Irving Goffman called The Presentation of Self in Everyday Life. He believes that everybody has a backstage and a front stage. And he believes that we all create our persona for every role we play in life in the backstage. So for example, I'm a mother, I'm a daughter, I'm a wife, I'm a teacher. I have many roles that I play in my life. I'm a pet owner. What are the roles that I play in these different parts of my life? I wear something special when I go to school. I wear something special when I'm doing my webinars. I put my makeup on. I do my hair. I don't just slob about in my jogging suit, and I don't do my webinar after I've just gone for a walk in the heat. So I prepare my costume. This is my costume, if you like, which I prepare backstage. And I do my makeup. This is my makeup, which I prepare backstage. I prepare my lighting, which isn't very good today, actually. I hadn't realized it was very dark in this room in the morning. I also prepare my PPT. I prepare my words, not my script exactly, but I rehearse what I'm going to say and I time it. I decide how long I have for my webinar and I time it. And then I know how to use the technology, more or less. You know that I'm not very good at technology. Being dyslexic doesn't help. And then I come onto my front stage and I do it. Irving Goffman believes that we all involve ourselves in performative activity, that the very act, we even call it act of speech. The act of speech is performative, and we all rehearse it in our heads before we do it. So I speak to you in a different way on a webinar from the way I speak to my husband. I don't say, "Good morning, Michael, how are you? I'm so proud of you going on Zoom this year." No, I don't say it like that. I talk to my husband in a completely different way. I talk to my grandchildren in a completely different way. So I select 3 faces of me, and I select some other people to play the other characters. So I may select, I'm a sister, and I may select 2 people to be my siblings, my younger brother, my older sister. And I develop an improvisation with me being a sister. Then I do an improvisation of me being a mother, and the 2 people are my grandchildren, or 2 of my 4 grandchildren, and I do an improvisation with them. Then I select me as a daughter, and I select those 2 people as my mother and my father. So you can do it in groups of any number according to what you want to play, and you show the 3 different faces of yourself. And in doing that, you learn about who you are, what your identity is, and how you really do have a backstage and a front stage. And then the park bench. You are alone. You're walking through the park and you feel like having a little sit down. But the only place is one place next to a vagabond or a beggar or a homeless person. So you sit down there. What happens? It could be the only seat on the bus. It could be the only seat in the restaurant. And a conversation starts, and it can develop in any way at all. And then people in conflict, parents, teachers, police, officers, whatever you like, any kind of person who has a role of authority over somebody else. How do those conversations pan out? How do they move in this situation? What are the levels of authority? Are the parents above the child? Does the child try to overpower the parents? These situations of conflict are really very, very good for top primary and secondary. I believe you must prepare well. You must get your triggers ready. You must get your starters ready. If you're going to use, for example, cue cards, you've already got them written. So you could do an A and B set of cue cards, and you would write down the situation, you would write down the characters, and you would tell them how to begin reacting, and you would give out the cue cards in pairs. I personally don't like that, but as I said to you before, some teachers need it at the beginning. And then verbal situations with first liners. And then you can also use pictures. I have a set of pictures which show people in different situations. And I just ask the students to choose those pictures on Zoom and then to develop an improvisation based on the picture in breakout rooms. And then they come back and they do the improvisation on the Zoom class. You can find excellent poems. If you look, Shel Silverstein, for example, has excellent poems for improvisation. But if you just look at the poems in a new light, if you look at the poems through different eyes and you think, oh, could that be used as a trigger, a starter for improvisation? And then stories, of course, doing story drama, where the students enact the story through becoming the characters and the objects in the story. Sometimes students prefer to be objects and not have to speak, or you can make them speaking objects as well. Songs, obviously, narrative songs in particular, like She's Leaving Home, or Father and Son, or Sailing, for example. Videos. Those are great. You can get lots and lots of short videos on internet, and you can play them a video, and then you can say, okay, get into groups and reenact the video. So they are copying, if you like, but that's okay. That's no problem, because they still begin to feel what it's like to be those characters. And then you can do structured TV shows. For example, you can do soap operas, you can do interviews, you can do TED Talks, and you can also do jokes, but you do have to choose them rather carefully. Make sure that, that they're not going to offend anybody. I thought this quotation from Nussbaum was really, really interesting. It comes from the Traction Youth Theatre Ensemble, and it's about social cohesion. The central capabilities, as proposed by Nussbaum, that are particularly relevant include the capability to engage senses, imagination, and thought to produce cultural works. Affiliation, or the ability to engage with other human beings with compassion, empathy, and inclusivity. And the rights and abilities to enable empowerment. And that's where the transformation comes in, because once you empower your students, they will be transformed, because they will stop being students and they will start being something much more empowered. And that's what Dorothy Hethcote said we should always have in our schools: empowered students who can make sensible decisions within the society they are in. It's going to change, of course, and even societies change, but we can do all sorts of global issues with them. We can do all sorts of social issues. We can open up the whole of their thinking to look at their communities. So they act local, but they think global. Think global, act local. We rise by lifting others. And I think that's what we can do for our students if we do drama, and particularly if we get them to the point where they can do quality improvisation. We make the language automatic. We give them, we bestow upon them, if you like, agency and automaticity. So they don't have to think about getting hold of that vocabulary that's somewhere at the back of their heads. We make them fluent. We develop fluency, confidence, emotional skills, social skills, physical skills, and also intellectual skills. Every lesson must be a thinking lesson, and every drama is a thinking lesson. It's inherent in the subject. Now I would like you to stand up, and I would like you, even though I can't see you, to think about how you could express with your body what you learned. This is non-verbal communication, and it speaks very often louder than words. So it must be included in our English language teaching. So can you be a screen beam, and can you show me with your body what you learned? Did you learn a lot? Did you learn something? Are you neutral about this webinar? Did you learn not very much? Or did you learn nothing? Can you show me with your bodies? You can do this with your students at the end of every Zoom class. You can have them show you with their bodies what they learned. And now I'm going to say, thank you, Macmillan. Thank you, teachers from Patagonia. Thank you, Mariana, Juliana, Alejandra. And I want to remind you, improv is life, and life is improv. Thank you very, very much. Now, if you have any questions, if you'd like to put them in the box, I will answer you. Oh, somebody said a lot. Thank you. Who was that? It has healing effects, Andrea. You're absolutely right. Yes, that's lovely, Gabriella. Yes, other teachers have said that to me. That's lovely. And in fact, Some teachers have told me that the parents have been very, very grateful, that the parents have been very appreciative, and that they were able to feel or assess in the end that their own children had actually learned more this year than ever before, which was quite an amazing comment. But I can see that this has happened with many students because they have been taught to have agency. They have been taught to be autonomous because you've had to give them differentiated tasks. And a lot of the tasks you've been giving them have been active. Students are diamonds. We have to make them glow, and drama is a great tool. Oh, that's lovely. Yes, they are rough diamonds and we have to make them glow and shine. What a lovely comment, Andrea. Thank you very much indeed. Oh, I'm glad you like the ideas. It happened the same, Sonia, to your students. That's brilliant. Oh, I'm glad you found it awesome, Louisa. And Gabriella, you learned a lot. Thank you. Thank you. Lovely. Great. And now that you've got some ideas and you can see how they work, your mind will go crazy. Your mind will be transformed. And everything you see as you go about your daily routines, you will find that you can see how to turn them into creative, innovative drama ideas. Oh, great opportunity to experience what our students feel when they are in a virtual class. Oh, thank you. What a lovely thing to say. I'm glad I've inspired you. No, Andrea, as I said before, I don't use scripts. There are lots and lots of plays on the internet. Just search Google and you'll find lots and lots. But I don't use plays because I'm teaching the English language. And I'm not saying that plays aren't any good. Don't get me wrong. Theatre is one thing. That's plays or doing the school concert. I'm a dramatist. I'm not a theatrician. And so I don't use scripts. I'll tell you why. Number one, the script usually comes from somebody who lives in a different context altogether, somebody who is older than our students, somebody who is writing their own language. And the script is therefore somebody else's language. I want my students to develop their language, not somebody else's language. But again, I repeat, that's not to say that I don't think scripts are useful. It's just that it's not my thing. I don't do theatre, I do drama. And drama for me is for everybody. Drama is for the weak, for the disabled, for the shy, for the poverty-stricken students, for the students whose parents have just broken up and everybody's upset. It's for the students who are dyslexic. It works brilliantly with dyslexic students because they have lived at school being a failure for the whole of their lives. And imagine that they had to go into school every day feeling a failure, knowing that they were going to fail again. And they go home and they go back to school the next day. Or in the Zoom classes, as one of our people said, they could hide behind the mask of the Zoom. And that is really very, very inspiring. So it works brilliantly with dyslexic students. It works really well with autistic students as well, because autistic students respond very well to these situations which are not real. And they know the difference between fantasy and reality. Lots of people say to me, but my shy students aren't going to join in. But my students don't have any vocabulary. But my student suffers from autism and can't do social situations. No, but this isn't a real social situation. And people say to me, but it's really bad to do pretend situations with students because they're not going to understand reality. And I will always say, no, the opposite happens. They do understand reality. They can switch because, as I said right at the beginning, it's an extension of childhood play. Play is a way of violating fixity. And therefore, the students can rehearse for situations they're going to find themselves in when they leave school, when they go out of school, when they go out of the school building, when they go off the Zoom situation, when we get back to near normal. So I think I want to transform you, obviously, and I want you to try some of these ideas out. Give them space, give them time, and give them the opportunity to try. And explain to them that they're going to be taking risks, but it doesn't matter. We're all in this together. We're all taking risks. I'm glad you found it holistic. Yes, not just as English language teachers. Oh, I'm glad you got ideas, Paula. This is great. Yes, it's hard to deal with the students' muteness behind the screen. I have been training 30 professors at Guangdong University for 3 weeks. I've had to get up in the middle of the night, and my Zoom class is 3 hours long. Imagine 30 PhDs on screen for 3 hours. And at the beginning, I could not get a word out of them. I could not get a word out of them. But by the end of the course, they were all clamoring to give their opinions. They were all clamoring to speak. Even the mathematics professor, who hadn't said a word at the beginning. Oh, that's good, Andrea. You understand the difference between drama and theatre. Very good. That's usually my basic unit in the courses that I run. Because I find that teachers don't understand that drama is for everybody. Drama is on the regular curriculum. It has been in England for years and years and years, until they adopted a national curriculum, which we had never had in England before. Many of my colleagues left the teaching profession because of that, because they no longer did discovery work, they no longer did drama, they dropped many, many creative aspects of English education, and that was a great pity. Well, it's 20 to 12, Mariana. If nobody's got any questions, but really lovely, really lovely comments. Yes, I do. Yeah, lovely. Thank you very much, Mariana.